did. It was a lot of fun.
Well,
and-
good.
And we talked it over and I
Oh, good. Well, I trust you.
will see.
What?
But it was fun.
Well, the problem is, we're always doing it at the end, and we're all set up, and I wanna go home.
All I've learned is I go last week. I'll take away.
It does fine.
For your, yeah, that's what I thought it
When I
was.
can, I hire a copy editor.
And
Yeah.
only for-
Oh, you can hire me. I can use that.
I'll keep that in mind. Be careful what you wish for.
I can do it. I'm good at
I
it.
can't put my thumb on it. There's something
Well, I
where
keep
that
thinking
happened.
I need to go get a job and then I don't
years
do
ago,
it.
and I don't remember what
I
it
say I'm
was, but
too
it was
old.
the same
but
deal.
copy
Yeah,
editing,
copy
I would
editing.
love to do
Copy
that.
editing, you
But
I think
Yeah.
that would be
Okay.
very fun.
7 o'clock, I'm calling this meeting to order. And the agenda is short. Let's just make sure I understand what we're doing. Bailey, can you pause until I'm done?
Yes.
Thank you, ma'am. Peter and Terry Tabor are going to ask for a continuation, another. Then we're going to hear from the Crosbys and Mr. Clark about building a house. And we have 3 sets of minutes to approve. Okay. And I see Celia is back as a full board member, is that correct?
Yes.
All right, we also have a matter. We have an organizational discussion item. We have to appoint a full board member for the term expiring March 2023. Is that Celia? Okay.
If you remember at the last meeting, we put her on as an alternate, not sure if
Yep.
I could do that. I have since spoken to legal counsel at the municipal association. Says we can absolutely put her back on as a full member, but she can only serve the remainder of this year until the next election, which would be March of 2023.
Okay, I move we appoint Celia Alfiero to fill the term expiring March 2023.
I second the motion.
Lots of seconds.
I don't know whether I vote on that as an alternate, but I vote yes if I vote. How's that?
Do we have a full board?
Yeah, we
You
do.
don't think-
Yeah,
Well,
you
not until we have
can
this
vote on this
vote.
stuff.
He's got to vote.
Oh, that's right.
Yeah.
Yeah, there you go.
Yeah, because until we vote, she isn't.
All right, so Tim, you're seated for this purpose.
Okay.
Remain seated. All right, discussion? No, you don't.
Really?
All right, hearing no
Welcome to
discussion,
feedback.
all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. All opposed? Okay, you're a seated member of the board again.
Oh, okay.
Thank you, Celia.
Thank you, Celie, for coming back.
Thank goodness.
Thank you
Celia,
very
we
much.
needed you.
Okay, does anybody think that the minutes are gonna take a long time?
No, you
No,
know,
because Susan went, you guys went. through them.
Whitney and I spent an hour and they are perfect.
All 3 sets that we have to approve?
Yes.
Let's get them out of the way first. I'm gonna change the agenda because the chair can do that. Looking at the March 8th minutes. Can I have a motion to approve the March 8th minutes as written?
So move.
I second.
Discussion? Not hearing any discussion. All right, so the motion,
Very often.
Yay.
See, our meeting was helpful.
That was great, wasn't it?
okay, all in favor of approving the minutes of March 8th as they are written? Aye.
Abstain, I wasn't there.
You don't have to abstain. You can.
Aye.
Celia would like to approve also. Okay, the March 8th minutes are approved. March 12th, this is
April 12th.
April 12th, I'm sorry, this is 15 pages. Front and back. No, one-sided, okay.
No, front and back.
Motion to approve.
So move.
Do we have a second?
Second.
Any discussion? I'll just point out that what I'm seeing appears to be a transcript. I'm not real keen on transcripts in minutes. I prefer simply to have the business recorded and the reasoning behind it. But if nobody else objects,
Well, they've been sort of, since I've been on it, they tended to be this way, so I think then we need to make a, whatever, policy or aesthetic or whatever decision about it, and then maybe instruct Whitney, because I think that she's been doing what she thinks she's supposed to be doing.
Good point. Thank you. All right, any further discussion?
I think maybe, would it be a good idea to find model minutes to show Whitney of what it is that we want?
Perhaps after we deal with these, with this set of minutes. So, all in favor of approving these minutes as they are?
I,
Aye.
Aye. Do you want a minute, Sue?
yes. No, I have.
You're all set.
Yeah.
I mean, am I going too fast? I have not had a chance to read.
No, there was something I had that was written that I submitted a letter of resignation, which I didn't do a letter of resignation. Somewhere, I couldn't ask to be this one. And
Which one would it be? May
May
10th?
tenth, yeah, I don't,
Seems right.
I read it today, but I can't find it. Otherwise, you know, it's just a, you know, a record and you go back and come in.
In May 10th, there's a slight correction.
At the bottom of page 1, I think.
On page, line 68, 100, and 115, you've got two that's. Is
Or
it
at the top of page 4 for the May minutes.
The May group.
Yeah.
No, but it was after. It was that's when I didn't think. In May.
Yeah,
Yeah, the May 10th, at the top of page 4, I think there's some reference to resignation there.
But that happened in
April?
Yeah.
April.
when I read it, I was a little puzzled because it says Miss Alfiero left the meet on the April one, left the meeting at this time. And then later it
Yeah.
says Miss Alfiero moved to adjourn the meeting.
Yeah, she didn't.
You didn't actually leave. Either that or you didn't actually
It
move to
said to
adjourn.
write a note at another time to rescind it, okay.
I think she
Okay.
resigned after
That'll be
he adjourned.
Yes, she did, because I
That would
only
make
heard about
sense.
it later.
I think that's what
Yeah.
happened. So she
Yeah.
could adjourn the meeting and then resign. That's what happened.
But didn't leave.
And then we all left because it was an incredibly long
I
meeting.
found, it's okay the way that said, I take it back, so
20-something
what's
pages, I guess it was.
Okay, all right. Motion to approve April 12th or May 10th? Second,
Second,
all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? All right, the minutes are all approved.
Okay, the May.
Boy,
10th
that's nice.
The May 10th minutes, there's,
Oh, you have a thing you need to correct in the May
yeah,
10th?
in the May 10th minutes, on page 2, line 68, you got two that's. Same thing on page 3, line 100. These are the three of them, where's the other?
Yeah.
Line 100 and then line 150. I think
That's
you
probably
pretty well
find and
you-
replace
you-
that I didn't catch, yeah.
They replaced something and it came out to be two that.
Yeah.
And, that's all I found. I'm so impressed, Whitney. You do
Looks great.
such a good job. There is page 7, line 273. Why did I do that?
You marked something there?
Yeah, mark something there. This one is more.
Line 273.
Why did I do that?
Ms. Johnson said that she would not think surrounding properties, the values of surrounding properties are diminished. 272.
270 should be is in
in.
keeping. There should be an is there.
Right, is in keeping with the look of neighboring homes. Ms. Johnson, in line 272, Ms. Johnson probably said that she would not think the value of surrounding properties would be diminished. But they're approved.
Put a question mark in there. And down here in line 298, Whitney, on page 7, there's two more to that.
You want to just search for that?
Yeah, I can go through this.
And
I
this
made
is
it
a
down
question.
for those.
shouldn't that be capitalized?
I don't know.
What?
Okay.
Okay, shouldn't okay be caps when you,
Usually it is, yes.
I'll just give you this.
And it would probably be nicer to say in this context, all right. ALL, or
Space
two words,
RIGH too.
rather than okay.
But he said okay,
He probably did.
he said okay.
Mr. Taylor,
Yes.
could we have the minutes first in the meetings in future?
Okay.
Pass that to Whitney because it's, Whitney, those are beautifully done. You couldn't- Really, they just couldn't be better.
Well, I guess you're a good teacher.
Do we have a Tabor person here?
Yes.
Rob, do you have anything to say about this, or can I just let him?
So you guys will recall, this is, I think the original application was to March. Continued to April, continued to May, now
I
we
think this is the third continuation.
So just a little background.
I'm not inclined to grant a further continuation. I think you guys should, we should close it out. You should go away. Come back. when
Can I
you're
make
ready.
a suggestion? Based on, so, we've been getting all kinds of delays with DES. We've now had to ask for another extension with them. We think that we would be in a position to present the application in its latest form, in September. Is it a possibility of continuing until then, rather than coming back like we have been? We think that that would provide us enough time to be able to revise the plans based on what we're talking with DES about right now.
The thing is, we're not even allowed to consider whether you have a complete DES permit. That's not something we're allowed to consider, number one. Number two, you're looking for a variance. I
Special exception.
Special exception for
yeah.
wetland application, or
Excuse me.
wetland impacts.
I don't think that's gonna be affected by, I don't think your plans are gonna change enough to have an impact on whether or not we have this hearing. Based on what DES tells you, unless they say, no, you can't do this at all.
The problem is the application as it currently is in front of you.
Yeah.
Has some impact areas that are no longer part of the application based on what we're reviewing with DES. So basically 50% of the driveway is gonna stay the same, the other half is changing. And we're trying to nail that down with DES. We filed stuff back in April with DES and we still have not gotten official answers on whether that will work with them or not. So that's the reason we've been coming back for continuations, because there's no reason to have you look at the plans as they currently are, knowing in fact that they're gonna change.
One thing that I suggested, obviously, if they withdraw the application and come back with a new application, they would be subject to new fees. And I think if you're willing, and I am also supportive, I would waive the hearing fee that we normally assess of $150. Since how they really haven't had their hearing, I would still charge the abutters notifications because we have incurred that cost. And I would still charge the advertising fee to the Valley News because we have incurred that cost. And we can certainly save them the $150. And, they can come back with a new application, timely fashion for the September meeting. And it would just be responsible for the notification of abutters and the advertising fee, so.
Yeah, I have a question. If it's a procedure, if it substantially changes what they're doing, does that, does that sort of change all those other things? Sorry, I've sort of lost the plot of what I was trying to say. I mean, is it now almost like it's a different project in a way?
Well, what
I
I'm
don't
hearing
believe
is
it's a different project.
the application will be material difference because they're still trying to work out exactly what it's what you need to present to the board based on what your conversations with DES are. If
Yeah,
you-
the issue is the amount of impacts.
Yeah.
It's
So-
not gonna be under the threshold, based on what
Right.
we've already got a plan that I could show you right now. And you could make a decision.
You're still
if
gonna
that
need a
was of
special
interest.
exception regardless, but the
Yes.
question of giving us something that, a special exception application at this point, that wouldn't it necessarily be what you're going to do, final thing, doesn't make a whole lot of sense. The board should have something that's representative of what's actually going to happen. It doesn't sound
You
like
will
know.
have that.
You will, but
The
you
problem
don't.
is meeting the timeframe
Okay.
ahead of your meeting so that you have the real plans in front of you.
I
At
gotta
that
clean
time.
up my hands.
That's been the issue.
Thank you very much, Susan. I think we could simply, I like, Mr. Taylor's suggestion about waiving the application, the hearing fee. I think otherwise we take you off the agenda until you're ready to make application in the fall. And we'll hear you then, but I don't want you on the agenda every time we come to this meeting, and I don't.
Well, that's why I suggested if there's a way to approve a 90-day
This-
continuation,
I don't
then
feel-
it's
I don't feel
noticed
significant.
for
There's no,
September.
there's no guarantee that they'll even be ready then, like everything recently has been so backlogged, it's hard, that's a gamble. I think the best way is what.
Yeah, I don't think it's that big of a deal. I mean,
Well, I mean, the only gamble is, we're gonna have to file new plans, but that may be all we need to file. As opposed to
you're
a
not
new
at any risk
application.
of not getting before us. That's not a problem.
It's just
We're
No,
not-
I'm not
It's a
worried about
3-week
that. I'm
lead
just
time.
trying to save
Yep.
money for the client and the
Sure.
time and energy that it goes to putting in a whole new package the next time around for the exact same project. The only difference is the impact areas and where they're located.
Really,
I think you should, reapply with the new plans instead of trying to go back.
when they're ready?
Yep.
And you're okay with waiving the hearing fee?
Yes.
I'm fine with waiving the hearing fee, because I think that's it, but the one thing I want to be sure that there's some kind of a site visit. It can be a video that you bring here. We can go, we can warn a meeting and we can all go. Mike and I can go and walk it, but I can't vote on something that I haven't seen. I gotta see it. But if you want to do it with a video and put it up there and show it to everybody, that's fine.
Well, I mean,
If
if
we
you're gonna
want to have
withdraw,
if we all want to go, that will be a warned meeting and we can all go.
if
hello?
you're gonna withdraw that, we can talk about that later, but
Peter.
Peter has, in the last meeting, offered an option for anyone who wants to come and visit the site.
Well, you
And
can't,
that was last month.
if
So
you, because,
as a board, I understand you need to do it through this process, so I would say, if there's an opportunity to do that, to start once we're ready to go, then we should do that before we sit down and talk about things in a hearing.
I think you're gonna have to reapply at the time. The best we can do at this point is.
What would happen in that scenario then if we came back and reapplied and the first thing was you wanted a site visit? Is there a way to do that
We can-
prior to the
We
first
can tell
meeting?
Mr. Taylor, yeah.
Okay.
We don't have to pretend like we don't know that you're coming. I mean, that's silly. But we can certainly make our desires known to
Yeah, we
Mr.
could do it
Taylor.
the week before the
Yep.
hearing. We only have the 3-week.
And you just
lead
have to
time.
notice that ahead of time, right,
Correct.
so that.
3-week lead time is
if the
for the
board comes.
legal hearing. But for the site visit, we just need 24 hours notice for that, to post it.
Hello? Can you hear me?
Plans.
Mr. Tabor, do you have something brief to say, sir?
Yes. I was in the meeting last month and the lady in yellow brought up the same comment. And the suggestion was that I be put in contact with her and then I can send her plans and via high-tech stuff, I can sort of give her an idea of what's going on. And there was never any follow-up with any contact information. So if the lady would wish to contact me, I am still available if someone wants to do that.
There's a reason for that.
sir, we can't do that. I'd have to recuse myself if you and I had a meeting. Even an electronic meeting.
Okay.
So we just let it go because we can't do it.
Okay, I'm just trying to be helpful. I have no clue what the hell, how all the rules work.
That's all right.
I didn't know then either.
Thank you, Mr. Tabor.
No problem.
The plans were excellent.
But
Yeah,
we'll-
we like the plans.
I like them.
So, Mr. Taylor,
I'll work with the applicants.
you work with the applicants.
okay, will we have the plans if we have a site visit?
Absolutely. So they're required to get me all of the stuff 3 weeks prior to your meeting.
Oh, okay.
We can't hold the
good.
hearing till 3 weeks from the application deadline,
Okay,
but certainly I will have had them for 2 weeks if we have the site visit a week before our hearing.
And,
And if
and
we
if
get it
we
to
could
him earlier-
schedule something before then, we'll walk you through the plans that you're gonna review before here, and then we won't have to postpone
good.
until the next meeting if that hadn't been done.
Probably make for a faster hearing.
It would.
For a final
And
hearing.
it's not an easy site, but it's certainly much easier to see, before you review it, so.
Okay, thank you, sir.
Okay, thank you.
Mr. Taylor, would you please read the introduction to the land use case that we're about to hear about?
Indeed.
Do we have, I'm sorry, do we have to like do any motion or anything to,
No.
do you just withdraw it?
Yeah.
Thank you.
Okay, this is land use case Z 22-06-01. Miles Clark, Alyssa Crosby, and Brandon Crosby are seeking variance relief from the Enfield zoning ordinance, Article 4, Section 401.4, paragraph P, to construct a single-family home within the prescribed setbacks to the street and side lot boundaries. Subject parcel is 0.1 acres and is located at Flanders Street, tax map 33, lot 29, in the Community Business District, or CB zoning district, and is owned by Miles Clark, Alyssa Crosby, and Brandon Crosby. This application is available. I don't need to read that. You guys have already seen the application, so there you go.
Okay, who's gonna present to us?
Well, come on, there's 3 chairs.
Before you start, I'd like to remind the board that we're here, this is a new application.
Yeah.
It resembles one that we've heard in the past, which is fine. And you don't have to pretend that we haven't heard from them in the past. For the minute taker, I'd like you to pay particular attention to the changes they've made that make this a legitimate new hearing, because we're not allowed to just hear the same case over and over. So we'll try to point those out to you. Celie, do you have the information that you need for this?
I don't have the
think you were here
previous, I
last.
have the,
Okay.
application.
Mr. Lenahan, did you want to say something?
I just didn't know if you wanted me to be finding back with regard to the differences. I just think, I know how you like to do those.
Yeah, that'd be nice. Would you?
Yeah. Give me a job to do.
I've got to find a.
Thank you, sir.
Because you don't
That'll
need
free
me.
up the rest of us to,
You give me a job to
Yeah,
do.
right.
You don't need me. So
Right. So Mr. Lenahan's not going to be voting in this matter, and I believe that we learned in the last couple of years that alternates should not participate in the discussion when they're not going to be voting. I think that's correct.
Yeah, I would go sit out there if I was gonna comment.
Okay,
Okay,
you're up. Thank
has
you, ma'am.
everybody had a chance to look this over at all, or do I need to like read the cover letter or?
I think what's going to be most important to us is to understand the size of the lot
The difference.
and the intrusion you want to make into the setbacks.
And the changes we made from last time.
Only in so much as that gives us a reason to to hear it, this case anew. To hear this case anew. Right. So as I recall, in the previous plan, you had the garage on the side of the
Correct.
house.
Correct.
And
Which
that
gave
lets
us
us
8 feet.
on each side.
Right.
Okay.
right. And I believe it was Susan, it was one of the board members, I believe it was Susan, and at the time, I didn't fully understand what she was suggesting, but when I went home, I thought it was a great suggestion. She said, could you put the garage in the front of the building? And I was thinking she meant underneath, and I said, it isn't sloped correctly, but you didn't mean underneath, you meant just the way we now did it, put it in the front, it's just, I didn't. Rather than. No, but I've been driving back and forth across that lot and looking at what's down, it's really steep.
very
It is
steep.
steep, it will need
Very
fill,
steep.
yes. Somebody's got a lawn with play equipment on it, and I don't know if
Oh,
it
that-
fringes on the lot or if it's really that short.
It's a tiny lot.
It is a tiny lot.
Yeah.
Some of their stuff might be on our lot, not a lot of it. But it is gonna need some fill. We don't know how much yet because we haven't dug out the cellar hole, but it will
Well,
need
you had
fill.
said that it's gonna have a cellar,
Yeah,
so you'll
We
have
hope to
to
have a
dig out
basement.
the front and build up in this, yeah.
well, it'll have a walkout basement in the back. You know, where it's.
Yeah,
low.
walkout
Yes,
basement,
in the
yeah.
back, yeah. But the front should be,
About level with the road.
right,
Yeah.
right.
Yeah, well, some of it's level with the road, but not
Well,
all.
and we do need a lot of fill.
It's,
But we've
It's a-
moved the garage from the side to the front. And the garage doesn't really, other than the front, harm the neighbors' boundary invasion. And so we've done the best we could with the house. Keeping it the same size that we
So
applied
just
for
to,
before.
just to understand, so the garage, presumably the cars enter directly from the street,
Correct.
is that correct? And then the house, this is the entrance to the house is
The
along
house will
this
now have to
side.
be on the side, yes.
Okay, and it
versus-
will be on this side.
Correct,
Okay.
but I guess so. Yeah,
Okay, okay.
That's what I was thinking, yeah.
well, I would think in the winter, you wanna go from the garage into the
Into
house.
the
Yeah,
So you have
yeah.
doors.
Well, you won't be able to enter the house from the garage.
yeah,
And that seems like a good setup.
it does, it does.
Okay, so, I'd like to have Mr. Taylor tell us for the record, for the findings of fact, what the setbacks requirements are in this district.
Can get that for you right now.
Thank you, sir. And then we'll read in what the proposed setbacks would be. And we'll point out that this is a difference from the previous plan in that in this plan, the side setbacks will be 18 feet and 14 feet, whereas in the previous plan, they were approximately 8 feet on each side, which we found far too tight.
So I will point out this property is in the CB district, or community business.
CB.
Yep. And it's also very, very close to the R1.
Very close to what?
R1 is the
Oh.
district, probably the next property down. It's 350 feet from Route 4. That's where the district boundary is.
So let's put that in also as a finding of fact that it abuts the R1 district.
And so the CB district setbacks, no structure shall be located nearer than 30 feet from any lot line contiguous to the street and 20 feet from any other lot boundary.
Okay, so 30 feet to the front, 20 feet from all the others. Would you please inform us about the R1 setbacks?
So you think I want, sure, just a second. I believe it's 20 and 15 respectively. I'll just confirm that. R1 is 20 feet from the street and 15 from the other lot boundaries.
And is it correct that this lot abuts the R1 district? Is that actually correct?
Very, very close. I've also got the map here.
Is it possible to put the map up to look at?
Yes, it is. Let's take a look at it. Hold on one
Would
second.
you guys like to hear what I'm thinking, why I'm asking these particular questions?
Yeah,
I'm wondering if we can consider, it's in the CB, obviously, but for the purposes of the variance, can we be guided by how close the other non-conforming properties are to the street and how close they are to their lot line? In other words, if we grant this variance, will it be a drastic departure from the character of the neighborhood? Is it going to really alter that character at all?
I have some information that might help you with that. And
We
we
would
looked
like to hear that.
up, and I'll pass these out.
What you cannot see through the mask is the absolute deadpan expression on my face. So it really doesn't matter at all.
Those are surrounding properties.
That would be
Those
great.
are surrounding properties that,
So I have while we're looking at this, I have a question. So
We're gonna pass this to Rob to be included in the record.
this is, so is the property line, I can't remember, is there a sidewalk there? There isn't, okay. So you just would have a little bit of, teeny bit of
Well, there's,
driveway,
town easement that's
Right.
grass.
okay,
There is town easement that's grass. And then, and you measure from the edge of the town
From the town
easement,
easement,
not the
okay.
road. So
Okay.
there is quite a bit of grass, because there's a telephone pole and everything,
Right,
and
right.
mailboxes.
So presumably somebody walking by is not.
Oh, yeah, they've
you know,
got
right
like 6
here.
feet before you
Sure.
even
You're
start.
not gonna run over them backing
No.
out.
Right there.
No,
Thank you.
no.
Rob,
Sorry, what, okay, all right,
Mr.
it's
Taylor has-
29, okay.
hold on just a second, we're getting a little crazy for me. What is the address of this lot that we're looking to consider?
It's lot 29.
Uh,
You see this shaded is the CB.
lot 29, okay, what's the street address?
No street address issued yet, it's vacant.
So it's not on.
But
this
it's
little
close
chart.
to, it's right next door to 63 Flanders, if that helps you.
Yes, that does, I'm trying to
So you can
orient.
see the boundary district's right there.
So it's out of butt, sorry.
So what's your ordering here? Is this like going down the street?
I have to look at it. Oh, I think it was lot 7. I was numerically going down the
By
lots.
the lot.
7, 8, 1, 12, 13, 15.
It's lot 30 on the corner, right?
Correct. That's on
Lot 30
Route
is
4
the
and
corner,
Flanders
it's
Street.
Sitting right there.
So
Yes.
its side is 14.
Yeah, I don't know what their front is, but it's really tight on the front. But because we didn't know where the town
Yeah.
line was, we didn't put that in.
S-
I
30
can show you the planimetric layers will result.
30 is sitting right there.
There's 30 and 31.
Back out a little bit.
Keep going.
It's great, thanks, boss.
See, the hatch is their
Are you-
driveway,
Are you wanting to see?
and they've got
the
2
setback of the
cars
house?
that fit on that driveway.
7 on 30.
Yeah, on 30. There's 2 cars that sit on that driveway. And
This-
then 31,
Yeah, they have a back deck
there's,
too.
they've mowed it all. And you can see through 29 way down the hill that it's incredibly vegetated. 29, is that a good word for it?
Yes,
They're gonna have to do a lot of clearing. and
What, the
filling.
public garage?
But 30,
A public
see,
garage would
that's,
be
that
something
fits
for
2
higher.
cars that have space.
It's the green.
Vegetated cover.
Not necessarily wetlands.
Like, no,
No.
no wetlands.
It's 2 separate saws.
I can measure anything you
could have
guys
a
need
period
measured here,
there.
there's a
You guys
measuring
haven't
tool.
had any-
To show you this house on lot 30 is 17 feet. Street.
It's hard to make a chair.
Okay, so
Is it that far?
This house on lot 24 is 21 feet.
Yeah, but they're up on the hill and they have a garage.
To Route 4, they're even closer,
And
about 16 to 4.
How'd you get these measurements?
I scaled them off of Google Maps.
Google Map.
Nice work.
well
It's a very
done.
similar tool to what I'm using right here on Google.
You
It's very
get
similar.
some sort of prize.
I think you're gonna be a good bit closer to the front boundary than other houses on the street.
Why do you say that, Mike?
'Cause it's
Because
6
it's
feet
6
from the
feet.
front of the
6
garage.
feet, and you look at the other 2 that are along there. Those are,
9 feet's the closest, which is number 31, which is 31.
That's,
Oh, it's right there,
that's
How
that
close
house
that is to
that
4.
they rented.
right,
Almost
that
no
big
setback
white one.
there.
And that's also quite high
I
up.
don't know if you can measure that.
Well, you have 16 on here for 30.
Look at the
That isn't 16
too.
if you were looking at something else.
I'm not looking at them so much, though. I'm looking at,
The ones in the little
yeah,
neighborhood.
in Flanders Street there,
Yep.
along that section.
Yep.
And I'm seeing 25 and 26 and 27 are back quite a bit, so is 28.
What's the number? If that's 28 is the house next door? There's a little house next door.
Yes,
So that's 28, right?
That looks like a modular house. I don't
It
know.
is.
It is a modular
Yes, it
house?
is.
Some of those are tiny, aren't they?
Yeah.
Okay,
What's
before
the
we go any
slope
further,
on
we should.
this property?
What's the slope?
It slopes down to the.
It
planting
slopes on the back
Slopes
towards
down
Jay,
towards, Jake's, yep.
It doesn't
almost
really slope,
overlooks.
Steely, it
See,
drops
yeah.
precipitously.
Yeah, it's very steep.
So we should probably have a motion so that we can discuss the motion.
Here's the contours.
So moved, so we can discuss the motion.
Well, do you want to move to approve or deny?
I want to move to discuss.
We're putting a motion on the table.
We have to put a motion on the table to approve or deny?
Yeah.
Or not, we can't just discuss.
Can't move to discuss.
Okay, I move that we approve.
Do we have a second? I'll second. Discuss. All right,
Now we can discuss it.
now we can discuss even more than we already have.
So what's your concern, Mike, that it's gonna be way closer than the other things in the neighborhood? Is that a concern about looks, about safety, about what?
I mean, safe.
The only
It's not in character.
thing.
Hold on, Brian, Sue was talking.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Okay, and we have a question on the,
The question was actually directed to you, but
What, I'd
anybody
like to
can
know
answer.
what the slope is.
I just showed you. I can
We
do it
just
again.
had that,
There you go.
from the top to the bottom. Can we figure that out?
Can
mean the
you
drop?
show it,
These are 10-foot increments, right?
can you show it on
10,
Google
20, 30,
Maps?
40,
So
50
with
feet.
the,
No, that.
No, it's not 50 feet.
2 foot,
showing the
That's
contour.
quite-
2, 4,
That's
6,
yeah, I see
8,
it.
That's
10.
quite a steep.
Would you say it slopes 10 feet here?
But I used
Those-
a pop level and it came out about 8, but
Okay. So those are 2
10.
foot,
10's close.
2 foot marks. So there's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 2-footers. So it's about 10 feet.
It's 12 feet, that's a lot.
For a
Yeah.
walkout? Not at all.
For what?
They're gonna do a walkout, so your basement height,
it's gotta be
Is
10
floor to
feet.
ceiling
Is
is
8 feet.
8 to 9 feet. So to do a walkout, you really do need about 10 feet of slope to be able to do a walkout basement.
The garage will be flush with with the
Correct.
front, and then the yards will slope down, and the back of the house will be a walkout basement.
So, but that's so, I mean, it's so steep, so you're back, it's like you're on a little precipice there. Because if you're, you know, barely 8 feet, at the shortest point, barely 8 feet from the property line, and look where the drop is, that final line,
Well, we can slope the side any way we want, because we can
that's
fill.
still a pretty
It
steep.
flattens out at the bottom though, Madeline, right there.
Yeah, it does flatten out at the
That's-
bottom,
yeah,
and
but
we
that's
can make the
Wait,
slope.
wait, But isn't it, as you said too, it seems quite steep down to the property behind it.
It's precipitous.
Yeah,
Well, it's about 8 to 10 feet, yeah, no more than 10, it's
It-
more
it-
like 8.
it-
The drop from the street
no,
to the
from
ground
the,
at the back.
Yes.
my sense was that it went down like this and then all of a sudden it dropped off. Maybe, am I
No, it
remembering?
slopes, it
Not
slopes,
according to
it's,
Thing slopes from
Yeah.
the road.
Okay, for some reason I was thinking it dropped off at the back.
Let me zoom in. a
More
little bit closer.
dramatically.
So we're showing it here on this map. We believe these to be 2-foot gradients. So the street is here. There's the elevation of the street. 2, 4, 6, 8. So it sort of flattens out right here. So it's about 8 to 10
Right.
feet of slope on this lot. But as you can see here, it's fairly flat the next lot down.
Yeah.
And so as I said too, the walkout height of a.
Right, no, I just, for some reason, I remembered it being, that it sort of went sort of flat and then it dropped off and I helped.
well, there is a lot just up from us on the other side of the White House that really drops off.
Then maybe that's what I'm
It-
thinking
yeah.
of, is that there is
Now, they
that
could
lot.
probably still develop it, it would take a
Whatever, then
ton
I'm-
more
I've
fill, but
got
it
that, I'm
really
picturing
does.
that lot.
Yeah,
This
it's
lot
about
right here.
two lots up.
No,
Yeah,
I I think she means the next one.
It's,
I think it's the
It's
next
beyond-
one.
yeah.
See whether-
Yeah.
right there,
Gradients
how
there.
close the lines
Yeah.
are.
Yeah, it looks very drastic.
because there is one that really.
Well, and the
drops off.
lot next to you drops off quite steeply as well, so perhaps I was looking at it, see where it says 122 above the S. Right there, that's pretty steep, so maybe when I went and looked at it, that to me seemed like
In
it
the
was part
back.
of your lot. Anyway, sorry about that.
That's-
So can I pull us back a bit? And, I mean, if that's relevant to the variance that we're gonna, that we're.
I'm just concerned about how they were gonna have enough space to, whatever, it also.
And how it affects the
Yeah.
way that it's gonna drain and everything else, so. I mean,
So we should done all.
Drainage, they.
do you know if there's ledge there?
Can I ask them a question?
Let's, wait, I want to hear.
Hang on a
the-
second.
and
Let's-
the-
My turn.
These questions.
Let's see if we finish.
Yes.
No, if the land isn't.
I think we have to assume that they're gonna do the drainage properly. They've got to go before the planning board.
Yeah.
So the,
No need for the planning board, no.
No,
no,
no. No, I was trying to figure out.
Oh, it
the
drains.
doable.
It drains, it's steep.
okay, so.
They will
we'll
have
be
to
in-
apply to, the town for a curb cut at the street. And
Who's gonna,
obviously,
who reviews the site plan?
the curb cut is reviewed by Public Works. The building inspector will do building inspection, to be perimeter drains and, concrete forms and concrete rebar, all that kind of stuff is inspected by the building inspector, but we do not do, there's no planning board review for a single family home.
Okay, thank you.
I didn't
I have a
know that.
question.
Susan would like to ask you a question. Yes.
Well, I've got an enormous garage, it's 30 by 30. And I got lots of storage space and I got lots of junk. But 22 feet, cars are about what, 10 feet long, 12 feet long? Is there a possibility that the garage could be shorter so you had more space between the garage
I
and
would say
the
no.
street?
We actually, the design of a parking space is 10 by 20.
Is it?
And so if they want to have any kind of like workbench and, or tools hung on the wall.
Open,
inside
be able to open
garage.
the door to the house.
And what I was explaining to Madeline is this is 6.5 feet to the boundary, but there is still town property before you get to the road.
But Flinders Street, a
It do-
30-foot
this isn't
road or
6.5
a
feet
16-foot
to the-
road?
It's probably more like a 16. Yeah.
Yeah, Depot Street's a 15.
Yeah, so they're showing you the right of way, as
Yeah.
just as she just said.
Right,
gonna be
this
more
goes up to
room
the
there.
right of way. It doesn't go up to the street.
Right,
There's still a buffer.
yeah,
of
I'm
town.
asking.
Yeah, there is
Yeah.
still a buffer of town land between this, our boundary
Yeah,
and the road
so there's really more than 6.5 feet.
before you
between
get to the
garage
road.
Door and
Yeah.
the road.
Yeah.
Do you know what it is?
I don't know. What would you say
How
that
does that
was there,
work,
Rob?
Rob?
Based on this scaling, I would say it's probably at least double the 6.5 feet, so it's gonna be about
13 feet.
a car length to the edge of the pavement.
Let's put that in the
A
findings.
car
of fact.
length.
There's an additional,
Yeah, although, like I said, we're
From the street to
estimating
the
a
property
parking
boundary,
spot,
there's an additional.
about 10 by
approximately
20.
6 feet,
so depending on the
leaves 12
car, you know,
feet
if it's a
from the-
two-door sedan, it'll probably
three
fit,
to
but
the
if it's a
garage.
Tahoe or something like that, it's not gonna fit, probably.
So I think we're all covering lots of issues that we're concerned about, but I'd like to bring us back to the variance that we're talking about and ask if there are any concerns specifically about the spacing of the property that they're proposing on the lot. Not about slope, not about drainage, not about the size of the garage. Do you have any questions that you'd like us to ask specifically about the variance?
My concern is safety.
Okay.
If there's fire.
Yeah.
They have to be, and if there's, they can easily, the fire can transfer, the trucks can't get in. And they request, what is it, 20 feet or something, isn't it?
In the CB, it's 20 feet. In the R1 that they order, it's 15 feet. So
It's
letter of the
15
law
feet in the side of the wall, on the side of the house?
for the R1, yes. So there, lot 28 is in the R1 district, lot 29, which they're building on, is in the CB district. So in my internal dialogue, I'm thinking of this more as R1.
So,
And I will say too, that this area is very well serviced by fire hydrants. There's fire hydrants on every corner here. There's
So-
plenty of water.
Your concern is with the, what do they call it in the ordinance, the light and,
safety, fire and light,
It's concerned with what they call conflagration, right? The fire jumping from one building to the
Yeah.
next.
yeah, if it's too close. So you've got a concern that it might be contrary to the public interest, I think, maybe.
Yeah.
How far is it from the structure, the new structure that it's next to?
It's quite a ways.
Cause that's not centered on its lot.
No.
Here, the house on number 30 has two
We'll have to
parking
look at it
spaces
differently. I
here.
didn't know it's sloped the other
There's
way.
nothing built
They have a
there.
lot of
They-
land
They
there,
have,
yeah.
they have
About
two
29
parking
feet from the
spaces
property
there,
line.
and then there's their house.
Okay, so there's
Then there's a-
there's a fair amount,
I would point out, there's places in town where there's much less space between.
yeah, there seems as if there's quite a
Go to
bit.
Shaker, Lower Shaker Village, they're about 5 feet.
Yeah, that's not a
Yeah,
good reason
but
to
that-
create a bad situation, though.
Yeah, that was,
But there's never been any problems with fire down there or anything like that, so.
We let
If your
mine-
buddy jumped off the bridge, would you jump off? No. I get your point, though,
I
Rob.
have another question, and it's just weird. The line goes this way on the house, not the west,
Which line?
this line
North
goes,
side, yeah.
see, it's not square.
No, it
Right.
isn't.
And you set the house square in the middle.
We tried to.
Yeah, what if the house line was parallel to that line?
And what would that change?
It would look weird.
It would look weird, but it would give you more space it would give you more space sort of at the front, wouldn't it?
Well, one corner would be closer to the road. It would tilt the garage.
It would
On this
do
side.
things. Yes, it would. I don't know. I'm just asking.
move the corner.
We did play with that. We did play with that, Susan. We did move it and then it made it
Yeah,
tighter here.
be 5'8", if I'm doing math, like 5'8" on one side, on this corner, if you rotate
Yeah, oh, okay.
So it's not.
It's not a
Yeah,
good
you don't
idea.
gain anything.
it's not a
Yeah,
good
we
No,
tried
I'm
to
just
play with that.
asking.
For the size of the lot, like, this seems to be, and like combined with the very modest size of the footprint proposed, I'm not really sure how one would do it better without making,
Yes, I think you're gonna have to vote up or down. I think they've done the best they can with the sizes they want, so I wanna go through the 5 criteria. We'll talk about those, and then we'll have a vote on this motion to approve. So the variance will not be contrary to the public interest. If you do not believe that is so, if you think this will be contrary to the public interest, let us know.
that might be, yeah, might be.
And you're just
well,
worried
but
about
as
it.
they pointed out, there's reasons that it is not contrary because it's developing useless land and it's bringing more residents to, Enfield, which we're happy about, and it's increasing the tax base. So those are all things that are in the public
But
interest.
those, but it's not, they're not the zoning laws. Either,
What
what
we're
you're
at,
saying.
it can't
You
be
can't-
contrary.
Well, we can't say because the town wants housing or whatever, that's not zoning. That's not our role to say that, really. And,
And the criterion here is it can't be contrary to the public interest. It doesn't, which is probably not outweighed by benefit to the public interest.
I don't think it's contrary to the public interest because that's a mess. And they'll clean it up and it'll look better and the town will look better.
Again, that's a benefit.
That's a benefit. So I would say it's not contrary.
That's okay. I mean, we don't have to agree.
Yeah.
We don't have
You
to
put your
agree.
idea out there.
All right. Number 2,
The spirit of the ordinance is observed, so will the spirit of the ordinance be observed?
think the house is too big for the lot.
I do too. I think the lot is simply too small. I have trouble with
You know, if it has, really should be smaller. And I know that's hard.
I know. Substantial justice is done, so this is the balancing criteria. Can't deny them what we would do for somebody else in a similar situation. If we're gonna say no, then the benefit to the public, the rights of the town must outweigh their personal property rights in this case. So is
But they're not
substantial
really
justice
losing
done?
if they made the house smaller.
Well, and I just want to bring up that, you know, over in the Shaker Village, and we drove around, their lots are, some of them, our size or smaller, and they have really big houses on them.
Oh, I know, and at Shaker Village, right. But that-
Yeah,
It's a
we
different
can't-
zoning. It's a
well,
different zoning.
that
I
is a
believe they
different
went
thing.
in before these ordinances. This lot was subdivided before there were ordinances, because you would never allow a subdivision like this now because of the ordinances. But this was subdivided long ago, before those ordinances were put in place.
Yeah,
So you really almost have to, if you could please, grandfather it, because there's nothing else you can do.
So my take on it, walking it earlier, and I did the best I could with my tape measure, so I'm sorry, I trespassed on your land.
That's fine.
It seems to be, everything on Flanders Street is just kind of different. It was obviously all done before zoning, so I see this as no difference. I feel like it will fit in the chaos that exists.
Well, and there's something else about substantial justice, and tell me if this isn't. You just gave permission on Depot Street on a tiny, tiny lot that backs on the river. If we deny this, then we're not being fair.
Except that the lot there, on the river, didn't that already have a house on it, and they were
Yes,
just
it did.
moving it
It was the
to a
old-
slightly better position? They were actually moving it to a situation, if I recall, that was actually slightly better, because they were gonna center it on the
It was
lot.
the old firehouse.
Yeah.
So this
It
is why,
wasn't built as a house, it was built as
Right,
the
so,
firehouse.
but this is something new, where conceivably you could make a house any size you want. I mean, you've decided that you want this size house, and, you know, maybe you can't have this size house. I think that's also part of the issue.
yeah, and I'll remind the board that we're required to judge each case on its own merits. And
Yes.
not in comparison to other cases. We're welcome to look at the neighborhood as a whole and say, if we allow them to build this house here, will it reduce the values of the properties? Will it alter the character of the neighborhood, et cetera? But and I think I may have introduced some confusion with my description of substantial justice. But and then I may have been wrong in saying as I did. But each case we have to consider as an individual case. We can't really apply standards that we use for another hearing to this one because they're different. They're significantly different. So
For number 4, it will
There's no-
improve the surrounding
The hard-
properties.
We talked about hardship, I know you haven't hit that, but this is,
Well, we're at number
you have to
4.
understand hardship is hardship of the land, which is. But they can do something about changing the size, so it'll be more conforming to the zoning ordinance. Yeah, the safety rules. So I wouldn't say that it is a hardship.
you'd say it's not a hardship.
Right, because they can change. They can still use the land, they can still build a house, but they have to make it smaller. I mean, that's what happens, you know, that's, they say they still have a piece of the land.
I don't disagree.
And this is, remind me again, so this is a one-story house?
One or two.
Oh, yeah,
Yeah,
it
might
might
be a
be
case.
expandable, it might be expandable.
Well,
We've stopped going down that road because we don't know if we can build or not, so we'd like to leave the door open to maybe have an expandable cave,
And we're looking at the footprint, we're not looking
Yeah.
at the volume.
right?
Right, no, I was trying to understand what amount of stuff they were trying to get in there, because, you know, you could conceivably design a house that fit better, and maybe the space you lose in the ground, you put on top, you know, you get somewhere else, you get the same volume, you just have a smaller footprint.
See,
I believe that even if we were to put a single wide trailer sized home there with a garage, it would need a variance.
I think you're right.
Yeah, I mean, the problem with going up is then it starts looking like Tokyo.
Right.
What's wrong with Tokyo?
Nothing, I
Right,
love
I mean,
Tokyo. I used to live in I had an 800 square foot floor plan, so, I mean,
Yeah.
where people go up when they have to, but that's an unnecessary cost. Up is very expensive.
I'm not,
With the size of it, what are you objecting to? What's really bothering everyone?
I don't think everyone is in agreement. I think, it's gonna be a divided vote. And I think that Celia and I think it's just too small a piece of land to build a house that's livable, without crowding the nearby land. I think you guys have done a great job trying to fit something in there. Made some hard choices, but I think, I just think personally, I think it's just too small a lot to be building a house on, a home on.
28 by 36, because it,
Can I say something?
Of course.
Based on the fact that it's adjacent to the R1 district,
Mm-hmm.
okay,
Which is-
this plan almost complies with the setbacks of the R1 district.
You'd still need a variance because of the back and the front.
You would, right, but you'd still need a variance with the back and the front, in part because the board thought it was better to infringe on the back and the front than on the sides at the May meeting,
All right.
No, you're right.
May meeting.
That's right. So it's a kind of big.
Well, it's
So in
not,
fact, it's about as close as you can, really as close as you can get to the R1 district, and maybe even should be in the R1 district.
but it's still
Well, is
not
it
meeting
possible,
the setbacks.
well, is it possible to have, Mike, the house without the garage?
I don't know. That's. totally up to you.
I have prepared the applicants to actually ask for that. If you guys are not supportive of.
The only problem
Current.
with not having a garage is then you have houses like you saw down back, where all your stuff is all outside.
That's where I.
Your snow machines,
Yeah.
your,
Yeah,
well,
Tools,
yeah, and a garage does keep the neighborhood,
that's true.
tidy.
yeah.
Well, if you have a walkout garage, a basement. And it's awful steep, but could you drive around and park in the basement?
Like a car?
Yeah,
There's not
Yeah.
enough space to
I don't
turn.
think so.
you
Yeah.
do not enough space to turn
No.
around and get in and out.
No.
Okay, well, I'm asking, I'm not.
No, because, you know, because Susan, look, if you got rid of the garage and moved this up, you still a car, the space to go around, and then
Yeah.
because to come in, it's just,
You
not there.
almost need a railroad turntable in order to get the car in the garage.
Well, yeah.
Oh, I think that would be nice. All right, are we gonna benefit from further discussion, or should we proceed to a vote? Calling the question.
Did we talk about all five?
We skipped the tax part, but I think it's,
The value,
well, I think it's gonna raise the value for everyone, because it's no longer going to be a loss.
Right.
I don't think I agree with that, but I don't think it'll diminish the property
Yeah,
value.
it won't, yeah, it won't.
No, I don't think
talk
we're
about
gonna
unnecessary
diminish
hardship?
it.
Impact of-
No, we did not discuss
People.
unnecessary hardship.
I mean, people, you wouldn't have to vacant lot next year. So I wouldn't say, agree with you, Brian.
So here's the thing, if you,
I don't know, it's awful. to have
Well,
this.
there's lots of ways to build houses, let's say in a factory industrially. They're panel houses, they're modular houses. There are lots of ways to do things out there. So I think you need to sort of look at, it's not something that they think there's a simple answer to. I mean, people live in shipping containers.
oh, my fellow board members, please, can we,
Yeah.
can we talk about hardship briefly? Do any of you think that, denying this variance would cause a unnecessary hardship to these people? And I don't mean, let me just leave it at that. If you use your own understanding of hardship, okay?
You think, Brian, you seem like you were just.
But I mean, I'd be likely to grant the variance, mostly because I like to see people village, but more than that, I can't think of a better design for that. If you make the house smaller, that is an interesting abstract hardship, just because, there's just more people in a smaller space. And I think that size is a reasonable house size. They didn't make they're not pushing all the way to the edges. It's like, that footprint is something I could see myself living in, even with only 8 feet off the back.
Can you satisfy yourself that all 5 of the criteria are met? One of which is that denying it would cause them a unnecessary hardship.
Well, they'd have to come back and see us again
For what?
for the smaller footprint. So that's it.
There has to be a hardship for the land.
Yeah, so can you just give me the definition of the absolute legal hardship? And
Yeah, actually, would you mind reading it out? Because I don't have the thing here.
what's that?
I don't,
Owing to a unique feature of the land in this, in comparison to surrounding lands, no reasonable use could be made of this property except for the proposed use. And by use, we don't mean shape of house. We mean any of the legal uses of that property in this zone.
Well, then I pose a question to you.
Yeah.
What could you use this property for?
Ready?
Lemonade stand, storage shed,
Yeah.
a community garden.
Ready, Mike? Yeah.
Yes, please.
So that's number 5, literal enforcement of the provisions of the ordinance would result in an unnecessary hardship. A, for purposes of this subparagraph, unnecessary hardship means that owing to special conditions of the property that distinguish it from other properties in the area, no fair or substantial relationship exists between the general purposes of the ordinance provision and the specific application of that provision to the property. And subparagraph 2, the proposed use is a reasonable one. Now, paragraph B, if the criteria in subparagraph A are not established, an unnecessary hardship will be deemed to exist if and only if, owing to special conditions of the property that distinguish it from other properties in the area, property cannot be reasonably used in strict conformance with the ordinance, and a variance is therefore necessary to enable a reasonable use of it. Then it goes on to say, the definition of unnecessary hardship set forth in paragraph 5 shall apply whether the provision of the ordinance from which a variance is sought is a restriction on use, a dimensional or other limitation on a permitted use, or any other requirement of the ordinance.
So you need to decide, you need to satisfy yourself that there's a special condition of this land. It's different from all the other land around it.
All the other lots around it are much bigger.
They're also being used. I mean, so this is subdivided, this unused historically.
Correct.
Yeah, that's so
I
interesting.
I can support that. This is-
What?
probably the smallest lot in the area that is unused, that has never been built on. That makes it special in this area.
Yeah,
There are other uses you could make of it, but this is a reasonable use in this area.
well, considering it's a residential area,
So I can accept that hardship would apply if we deny the variance. I can,
Was that a finding
Not-
that you were making right there about the size of the lot?
thank you.
I
Yeah.
just-
But
I could have been sleeping.
well, if I wanted to go in and build a, I don't know, something that would be
Rob,
to each.
we
boundary
know
line.
anything about the history
You got-
of
I
that
would think that's
subdivision?
to make it
on
small. I
Flanders Street,
still
we
think
don't.
I think it's been there quite a long time.
Hold on a second. Celia's talking.
Sorry.
You guys are
I
talking.
just
right
think
over
the house could be smaller and it would not be as, it would erase the hardship because they can do something with it. They can put a house on it, you know, but it has to be,
Well, we could put a single wide mobile home.
well, I think you'd have other options if you don't like the mobile
Well,
home. Got-
This is getting pretty close to a double wide mobile home, so you go to a single wide. I'm sorry,
It's 1,000 square feet, right?
I don't know.
Approximately.
Yeah. Yeah,
Yeah,
Dimensions.
so to go smaller, you're
3
talking,
adults, 1,000 square feet.
you're talking a single wide mobile home.
3 of you gonna live there?
No,
No.
right now, he just went, but for future use, I mean,
Right.
you always have to be thinking of resale when you put this money into a building.
Well, I know intimately what this square footage is because this is just a hair bigger than my house. And when we had kids, we had to put a second floor on, and we're still cramped.
And you're still what?
We're still cramped.
Kids are tall.
I have asked
We're
for
at
at
a
least
genetic
9 or
disadvantage.
10 foot ceilings, I'll show them. That has nothing to do with this, but
So to me, this feels like a reasonable size.
We tried to make it as small as possible.
Yeah.
My house isn't even,
Celia, you
mine's
have a
24
small
by
piece?
30. That's pretty, I think it's pretty spacious.
yeah, that's how big mine is.
Yeah, we're not tiny. It's not a tiny place. You could make it smaller.
But, I mean, as far as resale, I mean, that's always hard to say. There are lots of different people looking for lots of different things, you know, if it's a house for a single person, single person might come and buy it, you know, you can't, there's no way you sort of,
Well, I was-
you can't gain that, and all the new things that they're building up here, they're all 1 and 2 bedroom spaces. That seems to be in this area what's most in demand, so I think it would be hard to say, to make any kind of judgment about what the resale value is based on the size of the house.
Okay, so I don't think we're gonna benefit from further discussion. I think we've considered all the 5 criteria, so I'd like for the 5 of us to think for a moment, and then I'll call for a vote. And I do that what we're gonna be voting on is whether or not to approve the application for a variance as submitted. We haven't put any conditions on it at present. And if this motion fails, not done, we would have to pass a motion on it.
Now,
If this motion passes, they get their variance.
but the variance is on the setbacks, correct?
Yes, ma'am.
That's the whole thing,
Right, what we'd be granting is a variance,
the setback.
right, to reduce the setback to approximately 6.5 feet in the front to approximately 7 feet 9 inches in the rear.
And Rob, you said that you advised them to consider applying or offering to not have a garage.
That was after the experience of the last meeting, in consultation with municipal association attorney. And I can suggest to them alternatives.
We're not supposed to be building. We probably shouldn't be in the consultation business. The suggestion is-
Right. And that's the,
I think if you took the garage off, you could rectangularize it a little bit.
If we took the garage off, we'd probably try to ask for, a little bit larger house.
Yeah.
And we've got that. I mean, if that's, you're really hung up on not letting us have a garage, we'll offer another plan.
We haven't got to that opinion part.
Right, we have.
That one.
So I think we should.
Okay, so the question for you is, will we approve this variance as requested and as the plan they submitted in this application shows? All in favor?
Oh,
Aye. All opposed? Thank you for your dissenting vote, Celia. You have your variance.
thank you.
Thank you very much. Variance passes
You
4-1.
really scared me.
Why?
It's scary.
It's just a functional process.
No,
Yeah.
no.
I mean, this is a very aggressive thing that was stopping.
It is. It's a tough lot.
As long
Yeah,
as
I
you-
agree. I agree.
All right.
I mean,
So one-
ultimately,
Could put a
Liam
two-story house
will
on it.
be the one, building inspector will be the one.
I think they met the
Yeah.
criteria.
Yeah.
So you might have some.
We were afraid that with the elevation of the house, we would stick up higher than some of the surrounding houses. I tried to go 2 stories.
My house is a story and a half. It's really old.
We wanted to look,
Story and a half for bedrooms and a half story.
we wanted to look nice, but we don't want to bring everybody's attention to it.
Well, thank you, Paul.
I was, what I like.
Thank you, Rob. And thank you for the survey. Everybody's busy, but thank you. So there's some,
I wish I was a surveyor.
I know, I know.
Those guys with recent families.
Yes.
The housing market collapses. Those guys along.
They're begging, yeah. Well, one guy has it right on his voicemail. If you're calling for survey work, I'm booking 3 months out. So we hung up on that one. But a couple guys have. Well, we just would like to know what the 4 corners are officially, especially taking down trees. Now, on Page's side, the right side, there aren't really, it's not a problem as far as taking down trees. But let's go. Yeah, but they're big trees.
Body property owner, the company's paying.
Well,
I asked her.
we might,
Two of you can breathe wherever.
right, yeah,
Right.
and he may say take it down personally. We just haven't been able to catch up. Call him? Okay.
Basically, it's, I couldn't make a correction since we're document something.
Everybody likes my work.
It says you got a Christian battle and water. Actually, I have one that says you were denied for the first one. So I just never gave it to you.
Really, we get it, man. Like the wind's closed.
Oh.
It's a,
Application.
Mr. Chair, no brainer. Mike? We haven't adjourned yet, have we?
We have not adjourned. We have taken care of the old business, the new business, the approval of minutes we did first. Our next meeting, our next meeting will probably be July 12th, unless Rob cancels it.
Correct. I do have one thing I wanted to ask of you guys, though.
What
With
is your
the applicants that were just before you. Seems how they were here last month. They
These
obviously-
folks?
What's that?
These folks?
These
Yeah.
good folks.
Okay.
right here. They obviously paid their fees for last month's hearing.
Yeah.
My question is to you, do you want to assess the full fees for this month? Or just the notification and advertising, kind of like what we sort of did with Mr. Tabor before, and waive the hearing fee?
We just
That's up to
spent
you.
an hour on discussing, an hour of hearing.
So you want the 150?
We gotta pay for her time somehow.
well, it's a different application, not that I'm.
It's a
voting
different
on it, but it's a
application,
Different
yeah.
application to that would be my.
Formally, yes.
Okay.
I mean, if we hadn't deliberated and considered, your application if you had withdrawn it at the beginning of the first meeting.
What happens if they had
It's
appealed?
basically the same.
Oh, I can write for you.
I don't know.
Check. Okay.
Oh, you mean a rehearing?
Yeah.
I don't think there's a fee for a rehearing, is
I
there?
thought this was a continuation.
This was a new
This
application.
is a new app.
Because we denied their
We denied
previous
the previous
application.
No, but if you, I mean, obviously, if somebody appeals, so you get a rehearing here, and then if you appeal.
So I just handed her the bill for the full amount. She's gonna write us a check, so we're all set. I just wanted to.
Just don't make it out to Rob this time. Don't make it out to the town. It's not cool.
All right, it's 8:15. Without objection, I'll adjourn the meeting. Thank you.
Oh, can I just say one thing as an alternate, because I didn't say anything, I was quiet. I think when you were talking earlier about guidelines for minutes and whether transcript or whatever,
Yeah.
that's probably, I know we went through this arduous process before of bylaws,
Yeah,
but that's where I would look to see if there is something that's already been talked about. Because I haven't looked at those things in 5 years.
Do I make it out to
I think
the,
that was,
zoning board?
That was
Town
my
event.
Or just
question.
town of?
yeah.
Town event.
Why? Because the bylaws would give directions,
They might.
instructions onto what, okay.
They might,
So
yeah.
we should probably consider.
I just don't know. I haven't seen them in years.
Want that as an agenda item?
Yeah,
Please.
but the Robert's Rules of Orders say that the minutes reflect the business that was conducted. And it's up to us, and you could just have a list. Somebody applied, we let them do it, we didn't let them do it. And it wouldn't have the narrative that we have. I keep thinking, Tim, because of other experience, this is stuff that's permanent record for the town. And it's the minutes that, as they are being done now, show our process very well. And I think that for this kind of public record, we have to be careful to show our process so people see how we arrived at our decisions. I don't think you can just do what Robert says and you list only the business,
No.
only what happened. I think that you need
Right on there, just.
some of the narrative,
number.
you need the narrative.
And all I'm saying is memorialize that in the bylaws is the best way to do it.
That it has to be absolutely correct and excellent English.
Right, and if it goes to court, they want that kind of thing.
Yes, and if it goes to court, that narrative needs to be there.
Good luck.
Thank you.
Careful of
Thank
all the
you.
chickens in that neighborhood. There are some chickens that are just randomly wandering around and they will attack you.
Rural.
Really? Oh, I don't. mind.
As eggs are also
The rural
available.
character of Enfield.
Yep.
Yes.
I saw somebody on High Street's got a sign for chickens and it says butt nuggets, $4 a dozen. And I was like, oh my God, that's a start, and it's right
Thank you
next
for
to
your
the
time.
child daycare center. It's perfect. Butt nuggets.
And how do you stop on High Street?
Do we adjourn? We did adjourn.
We're adjourned.
We're
Yeah.
adjourned.
Yeah,
No vote needed for that or
No.
anything, right?
no, you know,
Yeah, so how
you
do they-
never need a second to adjourn.
Where they did.
There are some things that
The
you're-
reason is just.
Is that the
Hey, you
sewer?
know-
That's the widest I've ever been.
So what happened is.
That was- I was
the
impressed.
cost got so expensive.
And you
Remember
came up
those
with some
people
really
that we
great
gave them
suggestions.
transport to
I
sell
just
them
could
to-
tell when you were going to make a point.
So for
Thank
instance.
you
You
very
should
much.
put that there.
$82,000.
I'm really glad you were able to do that, because I could not.
It's a different perspective
So
for
what I
me,
tried to do
because I
is
go,
this-
like, I can see it happening. There are times I literally want to jump in, and I know I'm like,
Every state.
It's say nothing. It's say nothing, can it?
In New Hampshire, there's no gray water, it's all wastewater.
And
So there was no way for me to
You
make
don't-
it economically viable. business.
Help me and I'll help you.
I did have a judge,
But still expensive. But
say
it's
the other
premium-
day in his
the
order,
premium we pay.
the court concurs with Officer Lenahan in his order. That's all he wrote. And I'm like, well then, that's pretty cool.
It's getting there.
He's getting there. It's like,
Yeah,
it's like, so what do you do in these situations?
Only states
Well,
without gray water rules.
Hey, how's your
So,
mom
and
doing?
Because of a lot of.
It's all right.
I would go and take it.
She's not out and about, she still stays home.
Right. You
And
think, yeah, why
And
not?
she's very much
cheaper and.
still medicated on steroids.
And also our water is more.
I get about as close to her as I am to Celia right now. I don't go in the house. The other day, she was out in the garden, so I went in and fixed her computer for her and all that.
You can't do it with a phone.
You know.
There's just, you know,
Sitting next to McCall.
I don't let anybody near her, to be honest.
But if you
No,
want to
I
share with
just,
Yeah. So about, I think I'm about to retire, so that's gonna be my new term. I'm going to retire. I'm tired of working.
What, yeah, it's not like if you have a coffee shop, you're not gonna be
Yeah.
working.
It's just like.
You'll be working more, but-
You mean the,
I just wanna do, yeah, I need to get back to like my.
Yeah.
What would they call
That would be a
it?
good
The,
place to
Dominican
work.
hands-on.
Right on the street. I mean, there's an exit right in the street, you don't have to go up that driveway behind. Family Dollar.
what I'm saying,
right?
Sir.
Are there-
Good to see you today. I'm glad you could make it. I'm,
Brian, what if that was?
I don't think he got, I was looking at it and then I realized I kept it over
It's just,
there.
it just, it's
It's
not
not
the most expensive laundromat.
supposed to go in the
It's-
final.
It doesn't matter who
It
owns it.
seemed like
It just.
something she
It's the water and sewer will kill you.
The water rates are too high.
Yes, and the
No,
sign.
and New Hampshire, New Hampshire doesn't, so what I looked at is, we do in like any other state, which
But I'll
is
try to do
like
like
the
a
gray
little bit
water
less
system,
trans-
because the
Yeah.
building is a
Uh,
30 by
but,
40.
I mean, you
and then
guys
a
know
30
where
by
they are. I
30,
don't mind
70 by
with
30.
editing.
So I was like, I can just put the
Yeah,
gray water
okay.
system there. New Hampshire doesn't have any gray water rules,
Tim and
so.
Madeline are right. We'll have to discuss as a group if we
Okay.
want to change.
Okay,